2 or 3 minutes, and then we can go. Okay. Dubai. Oh my God. I always wanted to go to Dubai. Do you have pictures with you, like of Dubai?
No, I never went to Dubai. The only places I have visited was New Zealand, Portugal, Argentina, Paraguay, and if you count the airport, and if you count just the airport, Santiago in Chile.
Oh, nice. I visited Santiago once. It was so damn cold. Oh my God. It was really, really freezing.
Yeah. And I went to New Zealand thinking, oh, I will be okay because I live in southern Brazil and here we have cold days and, the stuff Paranaenses like to say. And when you arrive there and you see and you feel the cold and you just, oh my God, I made a mistake. I don't have clothes enough to the cold of that is here. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'm going to officially start. We have one person in the audience, Luan Henrique. So hello, Luan. Please welcome. My name is Samuel. I am a teacher of Paraná Fala Inglês. My students call me Sam. And the interview of the week, I am going to be interviewing our guest, who is a professor of tourism, and is here. Hi, hello. And is here today to talk a little bit about his experience, and I am going to let him introduce himself. So please, Renan, you have the word.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam, or Sammy, as you prefer. My name is Renan Conceição. I am a professor in the Tourism and Business course at Unespar. I have a degree in tourism in FECEA, that is now Unespar. I have a specialization in marketing and human resources, also in FECEA, Unespar. I have a master's in communication in UEL, Universidade Estadual de Londrina, and I am now in the doctorate in tourism at USP, Universidade de São Paulo.
Nice.
I was also an English teacher in a private school, in a language school here in Apucarana for some years, about two and a half years. And yes, that's it. And now I'm here being interviewed by you, Sam.
Okay, it's very nice to have you here, and welcome. Welcome, everybody. So, hello, everybody. Welcome and good evening. Good evening, everybody. So, guys, for the ones who had just entered, my name is Sam. This is Professor Renan, and today I am going to be interviewing him with a set of questions. We are going to have some slideshows of his experience at the end of this interview, and there is a space for questions. So if you have any questions in English, you can send me a message, and I organize here the order of the questions, okay? So let's start it. And the first question I have for Professor Renan is about the costs. Professor, what are the costs of a trip like this?
Well, I will talk about my experience back in 2015. So today it must be much more expensive because of the dollar and all of this kind of stuff. But back then, I spent something about 6,000 or 7,000 reais. In reais, in New Zealand dollars, it was about let me think about it. It was about $3,000, 3,000 New Zealand dollars, and 2,000 reais. It was not so expensive because I was in a budget travel, you know. The most expensive component in this trip was the airplane ticket, about 3,500, something about that, and the rest of the money I spent, it was in hotels, hostels, food. You know, I made a lot of exchange of places to stay and food for my work. So I worked in exchange of places to stay and food. So that's why I didn't spend so much in this trip. But a regular trip to New Zealand would cost, I don't know, $12,000. It's much more expensive. But I was in a budget travel, so I didn't. It didn't cost me too much.
Yeah, yes, and it's important to mention that the costs of the tickets can variate according to how much time before you can buy it, right? You can purchase it.
Yeah, exactly. If you purchase the air ticket, the air ticket with, I don't know, 6 months prior, you could pay 30% less than if you buy 1 month prior. I bought my tickets about 2 months prior to the trip, so I didn't took a very good price. You know, it was 3,500. Yes, I was trying to remember this form of speaking. 3,500. But I could have paid, if I remember, about 2,000 reais. I could save a lot if I bought the tickets way earlier. But the air ticket is the most expensive component of a trip like that. Obviously, you will spend a lot of money in hotels too, because it varies with the duration of your trip. So I spent there 3 months. So if I would pay for 3 months in hotels, it would have cost me a lot of money, and I didn't have that money. So if you look singularly, if you look just one component, the air ticket is the most expensive thing you will have in a trip like that.
Yes, so I mean, just highlight the fact that planning way ahead is very important. Another thing that you mentioned New Zealand dollars. So I have to pay attention about the difference of the dollars. How does it work?
Yes, you can buy New Zealand dollars directly here in Brazil, in some specific houses. It is very cheaper than the regular dollar, than the US dollar. In some places, you will have to buy US dollars and then change that to New Zealand dollars. But New Zealand dollar is much cheaper. In that time, a US dollar was costing about R$3.90, and the New Zealand dollar was costing about R$2.50. So it's much better to buy and to go to there. Anyway.
Nice. Actually, my next question is related to the financial means. Can you talk a little bit about the financial means? We heard that you talk a little bit. Would you like to add something else?
Yes. So I saved a lot of money before going. I was working in 2 places. back then. In 2014, I was a teacher at FCEA, now Unespar Apucarana, and I was a travel agent in Então, here in Apucarana. So I have to save a lot of money from these two jobs. And in the end of the year, by the end of 2014, I decided to quit both jobs.
Oh my God!
Yes, I was not so satisfied with my job in the university. You know, I was very young, and I was not a good teacher back then, and I was very, very uptight and something like that. And I decided to quit both jobs and to go travel around the world. It was something that I really wanted to do for a long time. And yeah, this is the time, and I will go there. I will save money from during this year, and by the end of the year, I will quit the jobs and go to travel. Yes, so I saved the money, but something changed. My life had changed in a very significant way during 2014, but I still quit the jobs, and I was building a life together with my fiancée back then, and then the money I saved, it was being spent, and at the end, I just remained with 7,000 reais. I was saved 20,000 reais during the year, but I spent some part of it during the beginning of 2015. And I decided not to spend everything that I had saved, because it was a big thing that I wanted to complete, to achieve. And then before I spend everything, let me stop here. I will use the 7,000 reais and I will do this trip. I was planning to be in New Zealand forever, you know. I was planning to go there and never return. But as I said, I was building a life together with my new fiancée back then and my wife now. And I decided just to spend 3 months there. So 7,000 reais. It was converted to 3,500 New Zealand dollars. So I have to plan very much how to spend this money, because 3,500 is not enough to live for 3 months in New Zealand. So I started to search in the internet. How could I save money during a trip to New Zealand? And I discovered some online platforms like Workaway and Kiwi House Sitting that would allow me to exchange my work for places to stay and food and beverage and all the meanings to live there. And then in 3 months, I have spent 1 month in workaways and house sittings. So I saved 1 month of general costs. You know, I don't know if I said clearly, but in 3 months, I saved 1 month staying for free in some places, you know. So that's the way I could make my money last for until the end of the trip. But at the end of the trip, I was very, very low budget. I was with no money at all. In the three last days, I didn't have much for nothing. So I don't know how I survived there for the last 3 days, because my money just ended and I couldn't eat. I couldn't do nothing. I had everything counted to pay the bus from central Auckland to the airport to go away, and I couldn't spend with nothing more than that. And yes, the financial means is very important. You have to plan trips like that. I can't say that it was a clever thing to do. I didn't plan it everything in the ultimate details, so I just glad that I survived for 3 months there. But I would say that if one must go to New Zealand, I don't know, you have to consider about $1,000 per month, because it's not a very cheap country. You know, it's a first world country, right? So things there are not cheap. Food is not cheap. You know, if you go to the grocery store, it's not very cheap. So costs like that, I didn't plan it. I didn't plan. So it's something that you have to be very aware of. Nice. I don't know if I answered the question. I think I said another things, but
yeah, you did. Well, you did say many things, and I am sure that although you had a tough time in the last 3 days, your story was surely beautiful and inspiring, and I'm very happy that you accomplished your objectives. I saw that Bruna raised her hand. Hello, Bruna. I am collecting the questions that the students have for the professor, and I am going to order them at the end of the interview. If you want, you can write your question here in the chat. And by the way, Professor Renan has a channel on YouTube, which I discovered recently, and I am putting the link. I am posting the link.
Yes.
Chat, okay, guys. So please be sure to check it out. You have a lot of information there, and I am collecting the questions. Okay, so Bruna, please, if you have any questions, you can write down here. My next question for the professor is about the English. How important was the English language in this process, and how do you think you developed your language skills in this process?
Yes, that's a very interesting question, because before the trip, the English was not very important. You know, I just made internet searches and everything. But once you're there, you discover that you have to live in an environment of another country, so everyone will speak another language, and even though you know English, is very different practicing and speaking in English here in Brazil and being there. So one of the most, I don't know, challengeable things to do is the listening of other accents of English. Here in Brazil, we have one accent, and we learn this in schools, and we can watch movies and series, but it's very different when you are there in a country that is not so common to hear the English. So the English language was very important. Once you are there, you know, I learned English for 5 or 6 years in my youth. So I imagined that I would be okay there. I wouldn't be facing any difficulty, but I was wrong, because the English in New Zealand is very different. The accent is very, very different from the American English that we are, that is the most common English here in Brazil. So the question, how important was the English language in this process? I could say it's very important once you're there. Okay, so how do you think you developed your language skills during the period abroad? I would say that it helped me a lot with the listening. I learned a lot of new words and new phrases and new phrasal verbs and new ways to speak English. You know, people there they speak like they are talking inside, you know, something like that, and they chew the words, something like that. It's very hard to identify the words they are saying because the accent is very different. Like the number 10, they say teen, and teen in American English is another thing. And 7 becomes 7, and 6, the number 6 becomes 6. And sex in American language is sex, you know, so it's very hard to understand these particularities, but it helped me a lot to train my listening, and being there, I developed a lot of my vocabulary and my listening characteristics, and you know, this kind of thing.
Nice, nice. It's important to have this proofs that it's not because you necessarily speak the language that you will have the same experience in all the countries, right?
Yes. And something that it's important to highlight is we Brazilians are very insecure of our English skills, and I am also insecure of my English skills. I speak English and it's not very very good, not very right. I can pick the wrong words, but once you are there, you lose this fear of speaking in English, you know, because in New Zealand everyone is so kind, is so nice, so gentle, and they understand you even though you speak wrong words and wrong sentences. They are very welcoming people. So the first thing I used to say when I encounter new people there, when I met new people there, is sorry for my English, is a bad English, and they say, you don't need to be sorry. You know? I can't speak Portuguese, and you speak Portuguese and English, so I have to be sorry, and not you. So they are very, very kind. They are very respectful towards you. So it's something that we must lose, the fear of speaking in English abroad, because it's not our mother tongue, it's not our first language, and obviously I was not in an academic trip, so it was okay to speak a bad English, you know. If I was going to a congress or something like that, I would be much more careful about the English and the structures. But as it was a very different trip, so one time you have to lose this fear of speak, and you have to live there. So.
Oh my God, I had no idea that the people from New Zealand were such warm people. My next question is about the culture shock. Did you have any cultural shock? Okay, I made a note here about the definition of culture shock. And culture shock is the feeling of disorientation experienced by someone who is suddenly subjected to an unfamiliar culture or way of life. So did you experience anything like this?
I think so, because they have very different habits from people here in Brazil, and the food is very different. They have I don't know how to say this exactly, but yes, I can say I have huge shock, cultural shock experiences, because in New Zealand they are a lot do it yourself, you know. So you have to do a lot of things. People there know a lot of things, and they can fix a lot of things by themselves. And here in Brazil, at least for me, we don't have this experience. At least for me, again. So you know, people here can do a lot of things, but I don't. So it's very strong in New Zealand people, in the Kiwis. They call themselves Kiwis. In Kiwi people, they go a lot outdoors. They love the outdoors, and they do everything by themselves. And the food is very different. The gastronomy there is much alike the United Kingdom gastronomy. So, you know, fish and chips and this kind of stuff. And it's very different from Brazil. We have rice and beans, and we have a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, and they don't have this in there. So the food was very different, and I can consider this a very powerful cultural shock, if you consider the gastronomy inside the cultural definition. And these outdoors and do-it-yourself habits, I consider, because people there, they wake up very early to go outdoors. You know, even in the winter, during the winter, that it was the period I was there, people like to get up, I don't know, 5 a.m. to go running and to go jogging and to go practice sports in the park, even though it was a very a very intense cold outside. You know, it was 0 degrees, and I was freezing, and people was just there playing sports, you know. And yes, 5 a.m. And they go to bed very early, like 7 p.m. Everyone is sleeping. There's no nightlife in New Zealand. 9 p.m. the TVs, the TV channels, they end their programming, their schedules. You know, something that happened in Brazil very long time ago. The TVs was with that colorful bars, you know, like white, red, you know. This was like something in Brazil very...
Bars, right?
Yes, exactly. This was very common in Brazil during the 90s, right? And in New Zealand, 2015, 9 p.m., all the channels just ended their programs, and the TV just became like this. And, you know, people go to bed very early there, and they rise very early too. So this was very, very powerful to me, because I had other habits.
Oh my God. And was there any typical food that you tried and you really like it?
Actually, no, because I am a vegetarian, you know. And people, yes, and people in New Zealand, they like fish and chips. So I tried the chips, not the fish. You know? So I survived the 3 months there eating rice, because I love rice, eating rice, and bread with cheese. Yes, that was my diet there, and I didn't try anything different.
Okay. My next question actually would be about the period of time that you stayed there, but I think you have already answered 3 months, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I would like you to talk a little bit about the places you have been. Like, where have you lived there in these 3 months?
Yes, that's a very good question, because I traveled around the country. You know, I didn't spend a long time in each place. So I arrived in New Zealand in Auckland. It's the biggest city, although it's not the capital. The capital is Wellington. So I arrived in Auckland, and I stayed there for, I don't know, one month or 3 weeks and a half, something like that. and then I went to Tauranga. It's a coastal city. It's one of the most important cities in a region called the Bay of Plenty. So I stayed in Tauranga for 1 week, and then I went to Wellington, the capital. I spent 1 week in Wellington, and this is in the North Island. And then I went to the South Island of New Zealand, and I don't know, 1 or 2 days in Christchurch, the second biggest city in New Zealand. And then I spent 15 days in Gore. Is a very small city in South Island of New Zealand. That was the place I did the house sitting. House sitting is it's a platform, it's a system, I don't know how to call it, but people, they search for volunteers to take care of their houses and their animals and their plants while they are away traveling. So a family from Gore in the southern of South Island, they contacted me to take care of their places, of their place, while they are out to Samoa. They were, I don't know, it was something like a wedding anniversary. So they went to Samoa to commemorate. So I spent 15 days in Gore, in South Island, then 1 week in Queenstown, the extreme sports capital in the world. You know, like the bungee jump was invented in Queenstown. They have a lot of extreme sports there. So I spent 1 week in Queenstown, and then I returned to Christchurch for a couple of days, and then I returned to the North Island, where I spent the final month of my trip to New Zealand. So I stayed in Kawerau, a very small city in North Island. I went to Rotorua. It's a boiling city in New Zealand, and it smells like rotten egg. It's very interesting because the volcanic activity, you know. And then,
oh my God,
5 days in Auckland again. So to summarize the answer: Auckland, Tauranga, Wellington, Christchurch, Gore, Queenstown, Christchurch again, Wellington again, Rotorua, Kawerau, and Auckland again.
Oh my God, you have been to many places. Question that I would like to ask is, how did you commute from a place to another? I mean, did you use the public transportation? How does it work? Is it very different? Is it expensive? How can you be in so many places? How did you do it?
Yeah, so it was a mixture. I used the bus system there, you know, the intercity bus system. It's very poor, you know, if you compare to the bus system in Brazil. It's terrible because the buses are not comfortable. They are, I don't like to remember because it's very bad service. If you compare to Garcia, Viação Garcia here in Paraná, we are in paradise compared to the Kiwi people.
Oh my God!
yes. But it was one of my means of transportation, and I hitchhiked a lot. So I took a lot of rides. I went to the road and thumb up, and you know, entering strangers' cars. So. Yes, and during the winter, it's not common hitchhikers in New Zealand during the winter because it's very common hitchhiking in New Zealand, but during the summer. So people in New Zealand, they are very used to, but not during the winter. So I was there during the winter, freezing outside with my thumbs up, and you know, I had luck. I was lucky to get rides. but it was very nice. So the South Island, from Queenstown to Christchurch, it's a long trip. I don't have the map here, but it's a long trip I made by rides. And, we can meet people from very, very different backgrounds. And for a travel like that is very interesting.
Nice. I am sure that the winter, the cold here in Brazil is very different from the cold in New Zealand.
Yes, much different.
I imagine you must have been freezing. My next question is about recommendations. So, Professor Renan, what do you recommend? What do you recommend to someone who wants to initiate this process?
Well, as I said before, I recommend a very long planning in the financial means, because it's not clever to travel to a very distant country like New Zealand with counted money, So you probably will have unexpected costs, and you probably, I don't know, a lot of things can happen, and you have to spend your money in things that you didn't plan it before. So don't go in a very tight budget. I did, and I regret because I couldn't buy souvenirs for family, because I was moneyless in the end of the trip. The money that I had is to buy bread and rice in the supermarket, and that's it. The last 3 days I survived in the bread basis, buns, like hot dog buns, something like that. It's not a very good meal to take. So the recommendations: plan very well your trip, plan your costs very well. What else? Check internet for things like I did, work away and house seating. And in New Zealand, it's very common. These car rentals, these companies, they do something in New Zealand very interesting for people that wants to save money. That they have a car in Wellington. Let's suppose that they have a car in Wellington, and they have to move this car to Auckland because the car belongs to the Auckland base, and they look for someone to do this trip with the car, to take this car from Wellington to Auckland. And the person obviously pay for it, but it's not a regular rent. They charge you $1 a day, so you can have the car. They give you a deadline to deliver the car in the other city. So you have, 6 days to deliver this car to the other city. So you will pay $1 per day until you deliver this car there. So you can travel, and you can spend, $5 to travel for a long distance. So if you check internet before you go, you can find these things in New Zealand. It's very common. So if you plan very well with your trip, and you check for these situations, 1 month prior, you can save a lot of money. So the recommendations, again: save money, save money, save money, and be aware that New Zealand don't have nightlife. Don't expect to encounter nightlife, So this changes a lot of things, because if you plan to spend money in bars and something like that, it's not going to happen, you know. So it's good because you will save money, but you will be frustrated not to find what you are looking for, you know. So you have to be aware of the cultural changes, you know, like we said, the cultural shocks, the cultural changes between Brazil and New Zealand. New Zealand is a very slow-paced country. They are very relaxed people. They don't like parties, something like this. Obviously, they like parties, but not like the ones we have here in Brazil.
I think no one likes a party like the Brazilians, right?
Yes, yes.
So, guys, I ended here my set of questions for Professor Renan. I am sending a link with the list of presents here in the chat. So please access and fill up this formulary with your information. I am opening right now for the students, for the viewers, questions. And Victoria asked a question earlier, and the question is, we know that in the United States, the society is usually quite xenophobic. In New Zealand, have you suffered something like this? Have you been asked a very nonsense question?
Yes, that's a very interesting question, Victoria, because I didn't suffer anything like that because, as I said, New Zealanders, the Kiwi people, they are very welcoming and they are very warm, and they don't know anything about Brazil. Anything. What language do we speak here? Nothing. Zero about Brazil. So the only thing they asked me, it was about soccer, about football. You know, the only thing. In 2015, we didn't. We were not very famous worldwide because of our politics, so people didn't know nothing about Brazil, you know. So the first question, do you like soccer? Everyone asked me this, and I don't like soccer. I like rugby, and New Zealand is the rugby country, you know, is the national sport in New Zealand is rugby. I play rugby here in Brazil, and one of the reasons I went to New Zealand is because of rugby. And okay, I met people there, and oh, do you like soccer? No, I hate soccer. I like rugby. And they say, oh, I can't believe that you like rugby, so you are in the right place. So yes, I came to the right place. And they asked me about the language. What language do you speak there? And I said, Portuguese. Oh, I didn't know. You know nothing about Brazil. So Portuguese, right? Yes, Portuguese. Portuguese is from Portugal. Yes, it's from Portugal because we were colonized by Portugal many years ago, but we speak Portuguese. So they are very welcoming, and I don't know. They are. I will use this word, but it's not in a bad sense. But they are very ignorant about Brazil. You know, it's not something bad, but it was nice because I was open to say anything that I wanted to them.
I am sure that their impression about Brazil had changed in the last
few
years.
Yes, for sure.
Gabriele has also written a question, and she says, hi, I would like to know if New Zealand is an expensive country. I don't know if you guys have already talked about it. So, Renan, is New Zealand an expensive country?
Yeah, it's not so expensive like some Europe countries. So if you go to France or Switzerland or Germany or Austria, it's not so expensive like these places. But it's kind of expensive, you know. I used to say that the prices are very similar in Brazil. So you go to the supermarket, you can buy a bottle of water with R$2.50, you know. you will also find a bottle of water in the New Zealand supermarket by $2.50, but it's in dollars. So you know, the number is equal, but the currency changes everything. So 2,050 reais is one thing, and 2,050 New Zealand dollars is the double. So you know the number is equal, the number is the same, but it's twice the price here in Brazil.
It's the same, but it hurts a little bit more.
Yes, right? Exactly. And if you want to buy fruits, it's very expensive. Or tomatoes, or you know, like vegetables and this kind of things. They don't produce a lot of things, so they have to import this kind of goods. Mm-hmm. So you pay accordingly, right? Mm-hmm. So bananas. We can buy bananas here for a very low price, and there it's, I don't know, 4 times this the price we pay here. And tomatoes, we can buy 1 kilogram of tomatoes here for, I don't know, 4 reais or 5 reais, and there it was about $12 the kilogram. So it's something that you have to be aware of, because this kind of things, this daily stuff, they are not cheap. Okay, yeah. So,
and I'm sure that it's more difficult to find there, right? Mm-hmm. Guys, if you have more questions, please write down in the chat. Right now, I'm going to ask the Professor Renan to show us some pictures. He had taken some pictures and separated some images to show us. So in order to do that, we will also ask to the professor to share his screen, this way having a better management control of his photos comments.
Yes, okay. So I have a lot of pictures here, you know. I have, I don't know, 500 pictures in my computer, so I have to choose very wisely some to show you. I will pass very briefly to which one. Yes, a lot of pics, Gabriel. So this first picture is before going. It was in my bedroom here in Brazil, in where I lived. So this is the backpack I used, 15 kilograms backpack, and this was not wise because I didn't use a lot of the things I packed. So if I have traveled with, I don't know, half of this with a backpack for, I don't know, 10 kilograms, it would be better. So this is the, let me put in the slideshow here. So this is the backpack, 15 kilogram. This is where, when I arrived in New Zealand, in Auckland, this is the welcoming totem in the airport. Now mai, haere mai, it's welcome in Maori. You know, like if I say kia ora is hello. Kia ora everyone, hello everyone. Now mai, haere mai, welcome everyone. So they mix a lot English with Maori language. This is in Auckland, the Sky Needle, the Sky Tower. This is Victoria Park in central Auckland. I have 2 pictures here. This is Victoria Park, and you can see the Sky Tower from any place in Auckland. Here I was in Mount Eden. It is a volcano. It is a not active volcano, so we can see the Sky Needle, I don't know, Sky Needle, I think Sky Tower, the Sky Tower in the background. And this, let me stop. I don't know if you can see very well this. Here. The symbol of New Zealand is this leaf. I don't know if you ever saw this before, but the symbol of New Zealand is the kiwi bird, of course, the bird. And this leaf here, this leaf is called the, oh my God, I forgot the word. It's called the silver fern. The silver fern, it's, let's, to be more easy to understand, it's a samambaia. It's a kind of samambaia, but you can only find this in New Zealand. So in one face of the leaf, we have the green color, and in the back of the leaf, it's completely white, so it's not the sun reflecting in the leaf. The leaf is completely white, so it's very beautiful. It's very common there, and you can only find this in New Zealand. This is the silver fern. Okay, let's resume. And then I did some workaway experience there, like exchange my work for accommodation and food. So this is the first place I did this workaway. I did some gardening work in a house of a couple of women. And they received me there to take care of the garden, and they had a very, very interesting garden, because they plant bananas in New Zealand, they plant kiwis, they plant grapes, they plant strawberries, apples, and they have a lot of things. They have chicken, they have a lot of things in this garden here, and I just showing the garden. And I am working there. And then the second place, I did some, here in Brazil, we say roçagem de terreno, like that. So I spent a week cleaning an area, and it was a very tough job, like I am with this trident here, and I don't know how to say this. It was one of the most tough things I ever did in my life. It's a rural work, and it was very hard. And it was, 3 degrees outside, and I was freezing, and I have to cut grass and this kind of stuff and clean the area for planting. So I took this picture, and my mother, when she saw this picture, she said, "Oh my God, Renan is suffering. Why did he went?" Yes, because she looked to my face and look at his eyes. Oh my God, mothers, right?
Yes, yeah.
This was the first ride in New Zealand. I was for 2 hours in the road, with my thumb up, asking for a ride. And this guy just stopped me, and it was his first ride ever also. So it was my first ride, and he was his first ride. So he took me from Bombay Hills to Hamilton in the North Island, and we chat a lot about my life here in Brazil and his life there in New Zealand. And talking with him, he suggested me, when I returned to Brazil, I proposed to my fiancée back then. And then I really did this. When I returned to Brazil, I proposed to my fiancée, and now she's my wife, right? This is in Tauranga. This is called the Mount Maunganui. A lot of places there in New Zealand, they have Maori names. So Maunganui is a word that means mount, means mountain. So Mount Maunganui, it would be translated to Mount Mountain. So Mount Maunganui, it's a very beautiful place. A picture overlooking the city of Tauranga from Mount Maunganui. And then one of the biggest touristic attractions in New Zealand is Hobbiton, because in New Zealand is where they shot Lord of the Rings, right? So Hobbiton is the Hobbit's village in New Zealand. So here's some pictures of Hobbiton. So the Hobbit houses,
Nice, very nice.
So Samuel, your name reminds me of Sam and Frodo, you know?
Yeah, Frodo's best friend.
Exactly. So in this place in Hopton, they have there is Sam's house, you know. So I took a picture there. I didn't put it because the picture is not so beautiful. It's not so okay, but it's one house like this one in the picture. So there's a lot of houses like this. This is the Bag End. If you know Lord of the Rings, this is where Frodo and Bilbo lives. So in the beginning of the Lord of the Rings, we have this sign here in front of Bag End, no admittance except for party business. And I took pictures there. The pub from Hopton, the Green Dragon pub, so where you can taste a beer. So I taste a beer. This is a hostel bed. I lived a lot in hostels. It's not so comfortable. It's very hard to spend 1 month in hostels. You don't have privacy. You don't have a lot of comforts. You have to share your facilities with other people. So you have to smash your things in one corner. So these are my backpack and my flip-flops. They call their jandals, you know. This is Wellington, the capital. This is the beehive where the parliament is. It's a very iconic place in Wellington. So this is the parliament. So we have here a flag from New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, and this kind of places in the South Pacific. The beehive again. This is the Wellington waterfront. Wellington is the most interesting place in New Zealand. I love the Wellington. It's a very vibrant city. It's very cultural. And yes, I fell in love with Wellington. It's a place that I want to return someday. So this is the Wellington cable car. So it's a very, I don't know, surrounded by mountains. So you have to go up in a lot of places. You can use the Wellington cable car. So this is the Mount Victoria. So you can see the whole city from up there. This is Cuba Street. This is the bucket fountain. It's a fountain made of buckets. It's very iconic there too. The sign of Wellington, because Wellington is a place that movie studios have using to shoot some movies and films, and they call them the Wellington, and they have a sign like the Hollywood sign. And this is Wetawork Cave, is the place that made the prosthetics for the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. So this is the trolls from Hobbit movies. And this is the Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings movies. And this is Christchurch. Christchurch is the city that suffered 2 massive earthquakes during 2011. And it destroyed a lot of things in the city. So this was the major church in Christchurch, and the church just fell apart because of the earthquake. Look here, the ruins of the church, and they have a new cathedral. It's called the Cardboard Cathedral because it's temporary, because they want to renovate this fallen church, and they built a cardboard church. So these walls here, they are made of cardboard. And the inside of the church, so these things here, they are made of cardboard, you know?
Oh my God. It's very impressive.
Yes, and this is in Gore, the South Island that I did the house sitting. So I took care of this house and these 2 adorable dogs. This is Mitzi and this is George. So the family asked me to be in their place and took care of their dogs and anyway. you know. So it was the first time I saw snow in New Zealand. It's very cold. Snow is very beautiful for one day, you know. It's very beautiful if you see in pictures, but when you live in a place with snow, it's not so nice because it's cold. It's cold,
Yeah.
and you discover that your organism, that your body don't
Yeah.
adapt very much to cold, and my knuckles were hurting, and I started to feel my back and to feel my knee, and oh my God, this
My God.
you know, this snow is causing me pain, and yes, it's very terrible. But yes, it's the first time. So look, you know, like you have
you country.
like a Brazilian, you have to play in the snow for the first day.
Of
And yes,
course.
and this is Queenstown. It's a very touristic place in New Zealand. I am finishing here. So
Oh, by the
Queenstown.
way, there is a question here. Sorry,
Okay.
Victoria asked about workaways. About workaways, how was your experience? The hosts were nice, the work was hard, you didn't really have to pay them anything, etc. So can you discuss a little bit about this topic?
Yes, Workaway is very nice because you can do very wide range of jobs and works and things that you don't do here in Brazil, you can do abroad. And people are very nice. Even though even in that rural area that I worked, roçando terreno, I don't know how to say this in English.
I don't think I do too.
Even in that place, the hosts were very, very nice. You know, I didn't have to pay for anything, so they pay for everything from my since my transport to reach there and to leave there. They paid for everything. They took me out in one day to. It's something called field days. Field days is something that we know here in Apucarana or in the north of Paraná, like the exposições agropecuárias, the field days in New Zealand. So they took in this place that I cleaning the lands. They took me to field days, and it's very nice because no, it's an exposição agropecuária. There's a lot of things to do in a place like that. A lot of things to see and to know. So in Auckland, in that garden that I worked, the hosts always took me out for dinner, and I taste Indian food, South Korean food, and they paid for everything. I didn't have to pay for anything, so it was very nice. I had to work, of course, right? It's not so simple to work in a garden. It's very hard too, and it's cold, and you have to, you know, like 3 degrees, 4 degrees, and you have to be outside and cutting grass and stuff like this. But it's very nice in the end because you do something that you didn't do in your land, and they pay for everything for you. So they took me for a lecture there in Auckland, in the university, in one night. So we went to the city because this place was not in the city, it was in the outskirts. So they took me to the city, and we chat, and we went out for dinner. And you know, it's very nice. It's a very nice thing to do. You have to choose wisely, of course. You have a list of places, and you have to judge by yourself which place you think it's better for you in this situation, in that situation. You have to think about. It's not the first one that appears to you, you accept. You have to think about this kind of things.
Yeah.
And
please show us your next pictures.
yes. This is in the outskirts of Queenstown, and I went hitchhiking. It was 0 degrees. I was freezing, and I had my 2 backpacks, one with 15 kilos and the other one with, I don't know, 3 or 4 kilos. And I want to go to Christchurch. And the acronym for Christchurch is CHCH, right? So I wrote CHCH in a cardboard to be in the road, showing the cardboard. I want to go to Christchurch. And in this occasion here, it took me 3 hours to get a ride. And it was an Argentinian woman that stopped, and she drove me just to the next city. And in the next city, I spent, I don't know, 10 minutes with thumbs up. And then an Australian couple stopped me and they gave me a ride. And they were visiting New Zealand. They were in a tourism travel in New Zealand. And with them, let me see here. With them, I went to Mount Cook. It's the highest place in New Zealand. It's the highest mountain. It's a place that I would never visit if I was traveling by bus. But since I took a ride with this couple, they took me to visit the Mount Cook with them. It's the highest place. It's a very incredible spot in New Zealand. It's very silent and quiet. And it's amazing, this place. A very touristic photograph, you know, like the Pisa Tower. And this is where they shoot Lord of the Rings 2. Mordor is here in Mount Cook. Like this photograph here is Mordor. I don't know if you watched The Lord of the Rings, but Mordor, the land of Sauron, the Dark Lord, is this place here. And this is Rotorua, is the volcanic city. You know, so the ponds, they boil, so it's smoke and rotten egg smell everywhere. So like the floor is just boiling. You know, this is the lake, Rotorua Lake, and the lake is boiling. This is the volcanic activity there.
Oh my God.
And Maori totems, they have a lot of Maori things scattered in New Zealand. And then this is my first hotel experience in New Zealand. It was in the end of the trip. I did a workaway in a motel. You know, it's not like the motels here in Brazil. It's a motor hotel. Motel in English culture is motor hotels. So I did a workaway. I worked in this hotel and they let me stay in a room. So this is the first room in my trip to New Zealand, and I was just staying in hostels and in very communitary places. And when I entered this room and I said, oh my God, comfort, you know, a couple's bed, oh my God, a TV. Oh, this was very amazing for me in the time. So this is the Kawarau Thermal Motel. I worked here cleaning the rooms, you know. It was very nice. I spent there, I don't know, 15 days working in this place. This is the Kawarau River. No, Tarawera River. It's very beautiful, the color of the water. And then back to Auckland in my last days in New Zealand. This is probably my last day in New Zealand. I took some photographs of Auckland parks and the Sky Tower. And that's it, my photographs. I have a lot, but I just showing some, you know.
Oh, okay. Hey, Oh, okay.
Hello.
So, guys, hi. That was the last one. So, guys, actually, we passed a little bit over the time. I would like to say thank you very much to the Professor Renan for having accepted this invitation to be our guest in our project. So, Renan, thank you very much for accepting. And I want to say thank you to the viewers, too. Hey, guys, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Samuel. And all these people here, they are students of mine. So hello, everyone. I know everyone here. And even though I don't have a very academic English, like the Paraná Fala Inglês must demand, I don't know, I think it's nice to bring experiences other than academic experiences. So thank you for interviewing, for the invitation, and yes, I am pleased.
I am sure that I and many people learned a lot about New Zealand, and I will remember forever that planning is very important.
Yes, planning is very important, and money and financial means, they're very important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is it, guys. I'm going to end it here. Very nice to have you. Bye-bye.
Kia ora. Bye-bye.